Michael Mann's The Keep is a Gothic horror film unlike anything else in his filmography. While it was a critical and commercial failure upon release, it has since gained a cult following due to its surreal atmosphere, haunting score, and intriguing, if fragmented, narrative. For those that don't know, Michael Mann would go on to direct very successful crime films, becoming a legendary figure in that genre with works like Manhunter and Heat. But before these defining films, he helmed The Keep, a film that exists on the fringes of both horror and history, visually arresting yet narratively fractured, ambitious yet deeply flawed. While dismissed upon its release as incoherent and overly ambitious, The Keep has since garnered a cult following due to its haunting atmosphere, surreal storytelling, and the unmistakable stylistic fingerprints of its director. However, what makes The Keep particularly compelling is its rejection of traditional horror conventions. Instead of presenting a clear-cut battle between good and evil, Mann constructs a world where systems, not individuals, create horror. The true menace is not just the supernatural entity imprisoned within The Keep, but the human-made mechanisms of power that enable destruction. On the surface, The Keep appears to follow a standard horror framework. A group of Nazi soldiers occupy a mysterious fortress in Romania, unknowingly unleashing an ancient force, Molasar, that threatens them all. But Mann's film subverts expectations by refusing to define Molasar as a simple embodiment of evil or to position its human characters as conventional heroes or villains. Instead, the film suggests that moral clarity is an illusion. Systems and ideologies create the true conditions for horror, not individual actions alone. This is most evident in the dynamic between the two Nazi officers, Major Kempfer and Captain Wurman. Kempfer is the embodiment of blind obedience, a loyal enforcer of the Nazi regime who views power as absolute. Wurman, by contrast, is disillusioned and skeptical, recognizing the danger The Keep presents, but unable to break free from the structure he serves. His reluctance and eventual demise illustrate Mann's recurring theme. Individuals trapped in the machinery of larger destructive systems. They are not simply evil men. They are cogs in a machine that perpetuates itself. Similarly, Dr. Kuza, a Jewish historian forced into cooperation with the Nazis, is not merely a victim. Desperate for revenge, he places his trust in Molasar, believing the entity to be a force of justice against his oppressors. Yet this belief is ultimately misguided. Molasar is not a liberator, but another force of unchecked destruction. Kuza's arc is a tragic reflection of how systems of power manipulate individuals, exploiting their suffering and righteous anger for their own ends. Mann's broader filmography often explores the ways in which institutions fail the people within them. Whether it's the criminal justice system in Heat, corporate corruption in The Insider, or organized crime in Public Enemies, his films rarely present clear-cut moral victories. The Keep applies this philosophy to horror, depicting the Nazis not as singular embodiments of evil, but as part of a self-destructive machine, incapable of recognizing the true horror they have unleashed. The Keep itself functions as a metaphor for forbidden knowledge, a prison for a force that should never have been disturbed. The Nazis, obsessed with power, enter a space they do not understand, and in doing so, set events into motion that they cannot control. This aligns with real-world Nazi mythology, as their regime often sought mystical and occult artifacts to justify their ideology. Despite its ambition, The Keep is ultimately a fragmented work. The film was originally envisioned as a much longer project, potentially exceeding 3 hours. However, studio interference led to drastic cuts, reducing the final runtime to just 96 minutes. As a result, character arcs feel incomplete, key relationships lack development, and the climax feels abrupt and unsatisfying. Paramount released a theatrical trailer and television spots in promotion of the film, which include various footage from the extended versions of the film that do not appear in the final cut. Famous critic Gene Siskel rated The Keep 2 out of 4 stars, writing, "Stay away from The Keep, one of the most inaudible movies ever made. Oh sure, you can look at the pictures, but without the dialogue it's going to be most difficult to figure what's going on." Mann has even distanced himself from the film, frustrated by the compromises forced upon it. To this day, the original footage remains lost, and no director's cut has ever been released. This has only fueled the film's cult status, as fans speculate on what a full version of The Keep might have revealed about its characters, themes, and mythology. While The Keep was a failure in a conventional sense, both critically and commercially, it remains an endlessly fascinating artifact of 1980s horror. Its refusal to adhere to traditional good versus evil narratives, its exploration of systemic horror, and its mesmerizing aesthetic make it unique in the genre. It is a film that, despite its flaws, lingers in the mind, haunting its viewers with the weight of what could have been. Perhaps that is the greatest horror of The Keep. Not just the ancient force within its walls, but the knowledge that it is an incomplete vision, a story left unfinished. And in that way, it remains a film perfectly suited to its own themes. A fractured and unknowable artifact, lost to time.